Hello Cinnamon Bun, welcome to my journal setup for late autumn. I have a cup of that toast and jam tea from Yorkshire Tea and I'm freaking obsessed, so I think I've been having this same tea for the last several journal setups, and I'm actually having a cup of it right now while I record this voiceover. Slurp. And I also have been using a lot of this incense. It's apple and cinnamon. I have an orange and cinnamon as well, but I like to keep that for winter because it feels more like festive, whereas apple and cinnamon feels like more autumnal. That said, by the time I'm recording this voiceover, we're almost into winter. It's very, very late autumn even. But it was more autumnal when I was doing this setup. So, yeah. Hi. Hello. How are things? Last month was basically a write-off. And I'm going to get into why I think that was and what I am changing in terms of my planning setup. And it's been going really well. So I hope you have a good time, a good chill time, as you come along with me to set up my journal. You know what's really funny about me being more consistent with these journal setups, like doing them every month? They have like a kind of like storyline now. Because in my last one, I had to make a note to order myself some new prints, and in this one I got the new prints. So I went on Unsplash again and found a bunch of photos that I wanted to print off for using in my journal. I sometimes use them like on my walls and stuff as well, but mostly it's for my journal. So this was the 4 that I narrowed it down to for this month. So I guess I can tell you a little about my process for choosing and ordering these prints and like my kind of thought process behind it. So basically I like things which are seasonal because I like my journal setups to hopefully try and remind me of time passing. So for quite a long time, basically all of the prints I used were like seasonal in some way. So, the ones for autumn, which in my head is September, October, November, were all like autumnal. I am a bit more loosey-goosey than that now. I actually just ordered, duplicates of prints that I've already used that I really loved, because why not? If I like those prints, I'd use them again. Or I like those photos, I would use them again, so I got more prints of them. And then also just like searching things that inspire me and things that make me happy and images that I like. So I have a bunch of seasonal things. This one that I picked for this month is a shot of New York. I love the colours so much. I love that it's super autumnal in like the colours, but like it's not, just your typical like autumn leaves kind of situation. So I adore it. But I also branched out a little bit and got some prints of like animals which represent my different guides that I have as a witch. Each of them has takes like an animal form or has like a symbolic animal. So I thought it'd be cool to use some prints of that as well, which is why you can see I've got like owls and stuff. So essentially what I'm trying to say is I like to pick images that I like the look of aesthetically, obviously, but that also have some kind of other meaning. They're either reminding me of what the season is and kind of encapsulating that vibe, or they're representing, a guide or an idea or something that gets me excited. With that said, hello, hi, let's do the catch-up section of this video. I'm doing good. Like I said, last month was kind of a write-off, and I'm going to get into that. But this month has felt a lot clearer. and I've been more focused, and that's been really nice. Like, as I've spoken about kind of at length, I do try to plan around my cycle, and I try to take at least like a few days off from like all kind of work, or at least all creative and money related work over my period. And that is my kind of, and again I'll mention a lot of this stuff is stuff I learned from Clara Bailey's Moon School, which is a lot of it comes from structuring things in the ways that she teaches in that. So I try to take my period as my kind of like winter hibernation for a few days of the month. And because I structure my month that way, it kind of starts and ends with my period, which is this few days of rest and quiet and just kind of listening and being receptive to, you know, what I want to focus on for the next month. That I find is actually very necessary, because I think that's part of what didn't work last month, is that I kind of skipped that process. And so when I was sitting down to actually set up my journal, I didn't really have that clarity of like, you know, mulling things over quietly for a few days. Also, as you can see here, I messed up my stamps. I misspelled autumn, so I just covered over it with some black washi tape and wrote on the top with a white gel pen instead. What was I saying? Yeah, so I think that made a big difference with this month and this setup. I like to, so in terms of actually, you know, like going inward and figuring out what is my intention or my focus for the next month. And that might just be like, what are the projects I'm working on? Or it might be like, what kind of approach do I want to bring to the projects? You know, what's a little kind of mindset thing that I want to focus on? It can be anything in that kind of range. Obviously, there's lots of ways to kind of do that, because for me at least, it's a kind of spiritual thing. It's kind of like, okay, I'm opening my head up to, hey universe, what's your fucking chat? I'm listening. What do you want me to do? What should I focus on? What's this month going to be about? And obviously you can do that with like divination and meditations and lots of different things. What I have found, the way that I like to do it, is actually through augury, which is a kind of divination where you interpret the signs of birds, which maybe sounds kind of strange. So I work with a particular, like a familiar spirit, which takes the shape of a magpie. And so magpies are very important to me. Every time I see them, I see a magpie, I kind of take that as a sign of like my familiar spirit being like, hey, hi, I'm here, how's it going? And so when I was first kind of getting into that, I got really interested in augury, like a few years back. And I mean, I'm very loosey-goosey with it. Like, I really don't, you know, I haven't like studied it. You know, I haven't studied like what the signs mean, like in some kind of consensus or traditionally. I just literally, you know, will go on a walk that I decide is I'm going to do some augury, and keep an eye out for any birds, or it really kind of, to be honest, I do extend it to just like other things as well, like animals or just like anything that jumps out, just like signs around me, I guess. But it tends to be largely bird focused. And if I see any birds, I will look at what they're doing and what the vibe is and see if I get any like insight or any information, or if it seems like symbolic in some way, and I will interpret it that way. But it's very like, it's a very kind of loosey-goosey kind of chill thing, because I do just, it's very intuitive, essentially. I'll just like keep an eye out for anything, and you know, if I see something, I'll usually be listening to music as well, which helps, and I will just feel into if it seems symbolic to me in some way. But it's become this kind of tradition that's kind of how I do at least one, well, I do one walk, which is kind of specifically for quiet and augury and reflection and thinking about, and like opening up to like, hey, universe, what's your chat? What do we think is a good plan or thing to focus on for the next month? And I skipped that last month, and I think that's part of why I felt so scattered. Because it really does help me clarify my intentions for this like finite period. So yes.
Okay, I would normally do these on the top line, so that
have enough space to potentially have like 35 days here, but oh well. Let's just hope my cycle is shorter this month. So yeah, that's like my kind of process. It's part of my planning process, I guess. It's part of my spiritual practice. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more later when I talk about why I think last month just was a mess and what I'm changing. But yes, anyway, hi, hello, I'm good. I have... I've had my head very full with just being in love. It's lovely and very distracting. But I have been doing things. In terms of work, it's just been videos. I am working on a bunch of creative things. Like I say, I'm not going to tell you what they are. But I've got 2 videos on the go at the moment. I got a new jacket. It's like from Levi's and I'm fucking obsessed. I'm so happy. I've been wanting like a short, like, so I have my big long grey jacket, right, which I do love, but it's the only like outdoor jacket that I have at the moment, and I've been wanting just like a short thing that I can throw on that's not like this super long fancy thing for months and months and months and months, and I finally picked one up and I adore it. Yeah, I don't know, I never know which order videos are going to come out in, but I'm wearing it in a vlog that I'm working on right now, so you'll see it soon, or you will have seen it by the time you're watching this video, if you watch that one. Yeah, so videos and creative stuff has been happening. In terms of like work, Davici Academy stuff, I am trying to do some business budgeting, which is very necessary, and I absolutely hate it. I'm really not good at it. Kill me, please. But I'm trying, and it is important, so I'm going to do it. I just am, but I don't enjoy it. And in my journal, actually, I've been trying a new weekly spread. I'll maybe throw up an image of it here, because I was finding, like, the way that I'm mapping out my week with different domains and stuff, I was just needing a bit more detail. So I decided to try like a 2-page spread instead of a 1-page spread. Let me be very clear, this does not replace my daily logs. I always worry whenever I talk about weekly or show weekly spreads that people, because I know a lot of people who, in my opinion, are not using the bullet journal system correctly, do use only weekly spreads and don't do dailies at all, and they try and combine the two, because I did that for a long time. A weekly spread is not a replacement for a daily log. Let it be known that I have said it here. I feel very strongly about it, but I like to do both, and I need to do both, and I was just finding I needed space for more detail in breaking down the different areas of my days and stuff, so I'm trying that. It's going pretty well, but as with all of these things, I will probably change things and tweak things as necessary. And that blinded me. I missed your skin when you were erased, and wished for me. Made of yarn, that fragile Capricorn, upon all scars. I know the world's a broken bone, so melt your headaches, call it home. Hey moon, don't you go down. Oh man. An easy morning, what a very smile, one and only sugar cane. Great work, truly. There's golden in the sky, Rose golden when the day Madonna. Oh, that's super creepy. Okay. You look like you was barely hanging on. The day Madonna. The summer, all was golden in the sky. All was golden when the day Madonna. Well, he was just hanging around, then he fell in love, and he didn't know how, but he couldn't get out. Just hanging around, then he fell in love. In the middle of summer, the sky was golden when the day Madonna. Also, since I have like been talking a bit more about like the kind of spiritual, like witchy thoughts behind some of my planning processes, I might as well talk about this. All of these stamps that I have, which are basically all of Etsy, and they're all the links for them are in the description, all represent different guides of mine, which I love because I just like, that's like one of my, you know, few kind of, I mean, literally just that and the print really are the only like aesthetic aspects of my journal setups, or my monthly setups. But I really like that they look pretty, but also they have like a logic behind them, or a purpose behind them, because the idea originally with getting that magpie stamp was that was a way for me to mark in my journal, and I could stamp, you know, next to some text and be like, this is a message from this particular guide. So I really like doing that, and so the way that I choose which stamp I use for any given month is either like which guide do I feel like was kind of running the show or giving me the chat of what I wanted to focus on that month, or which one kind of makes the most sense for that month, you know, is kind of in the domain of that month. So the fox, for instance, represents a guide of mine that kind of reigns over creativity, and since I knew I wanted to be working on a lot of creative stuff, and that was kind of the focus this month, I was like, well, that makes sense for you to be on this page. The magpie can basically always be there, so this is one of the first times I've used two. But yeah, so that's the kind of logic behind that, if you're wondering, which I really like, that it's like both cute and has like a magical kind of purpose behind it as well. What else has been going on? I've been doing some secret writing. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I am doing some writing. What a concept. And I have been learning some photography and videography stuff, which is fun and long overdue, and just spending a bunch of time with Pete, who is consistently a fucking delight. So that's really nice. And I went to see the musical of Beauty and the Beast with my little sister in Edinburgh as her birthday present, and that was an experience. It was a very dramatic people watching situation in the theatre. There was so much going on. There was a girl behind us crying, a couple having an argument, and every time someone stood up they would bash us with their coats, and yeah. But it was exciting to be like, holy shit, the theatre. So that was cool. Yeah, I think that's kind of it really. I think that's my update. That's my chat. Let's talk about what the fuck happened last month. In fact, I'm going to go get my journal so that I can chat you through this. So my last cycle was mid-autumn, right? So October to November. Mid-October to mid-November. And my focus was creativity, like general stuff, you know, like lean into all of that, go big, you know, and just keep everything else kind of ticking over. And it was a mess. And this is what for most of the month, I really couldn't, I was really frustrated with myself. I didn't feel like I was getting enough or anything done. And I just felt completely overwhelmed, and it wasn't a good time. And then when I did my kind of review and reflect process, which you might have seen in my other videos, this is the insight that I came to. So this is why that review and reflection thing is so fucking valuable, because it actually lets me figure things like this out. And what I realised was, first of all, there had been some like disrupting things in my month. So it ended up being a very short cycle, right? It was like 28 days, which is like the shortest cycle that I can ever remember having since I've known how long my cycles were. So it ended very abruptly, so I didn't have as much time as I thought I did, or as I thought I would, to get things done. But also I went up to Aberdeen and visited family, and that, you know, took a chunk of time and headspace. I had a bunch of executive dysfunction, but really I think the main thing that was not helpful was that I did not give myself finite goals. I said to myself, okay, the focus is creativity, it's general. I had this mini list, but really in my head, I was like, just do as much of that as humanly possible in this month. That was my goal, essentially, in my head. Not that I'd written it down that way, but that was essentially it. And that is fucking useless. Because what I found was, no matter how much I completed, it felt like that was never done. And so I never got onto like the other quests and tasks on my list, my main quest for the month, you know, for other domains. Because I'd set myself a goal that was impossible to complete. You know, there was no point at which I could say, okay, I've done as much as I can for the month, therefore I can check this off and think about other things. So that was dumb. And also, like I said, I didn't really do like my normal reflection, kind of clarifying my intention process at the start of last cycle. I didn't do my augury like I normally do. And so I went into it not being as focused. And then because of that, I gave myself this really amorphous, like unachievable, uncompletable goal of just do as much creative stuff as humanly possible. Get as far through all your creative goals as humanly possible. And it just meant that I was so scattered for like that entire cycle. And so with this cycle, like I say, it's felt a lot better, and I was really ruthless on deciding my projects and tasks, you know, like making it a finite list of like, this is what I'm working on for this month, and they're all going to be finite. So my focus that I kind of came away with for this cycle was really, okay, let's try last month, take 2. Let's try and take that again, but in a bit with more clarity and being a bit more sensible and making things a bit more achievable. Because this is the kind of wild concept that working, like planning this way with my cycle has kind of given me, is that it's made months finite, which maybe sounds stupid, but like working this way, I like have my to-do list for the month, you know, my quests and stuff, and I work my way through it. And when I see the end of my cycle coming up, you know, I can like tell in my body that things are wrapping up and that my period's going to arrive soon. I like, you know, I tie up loose ends. I finish the tasks that I want to finish for the month. Anything that I don't finish, I know I'll evaluate if I want to do that next month instead. And then I take a break. And it's almost like this little, I don't know if you've ever had this, because I think it's so hard to find. It depends on what kind of jobs and stuff you've had. But like, if you've ever like at the end of the year, like had time off at Christmas and before that actually sorted your shit out and finished everything you need to finish, tied up loose ends, you know, set your out of office on your email and being like, okay, here's my list of stuff that I'll deal with when I get back to it, and actually kind of wrapped up work in that way so that when you're off, it actually feels like a proper break. I feel like that's so hard to find sometimes, but that's kind of what I feel like I get when I do this properly every month, is like my period is like a little Christmas holiday where I really am genuinely not thinking about anything that I have to do. And then once that's over, I start to slowly click back into things and, you know, figure out, okay, well, what do I want to focus on for the next month? And what can I achieve in the next cycle? Like knowing that it's finite and that, you know, in between 28 to 35 days, I will be stopping again and wrapping up and having this little winter hibernation again. So that's wild to me. Like it really is like to have like this rhythm of like sprints of work and then little periods of rest is like not something I've ever had. And it really makes my tasks that I choose for the month feel like finite. It's wild. So I've been trying to lean into that, like I say, and really make all of my quests and tasks, like that list for the month, finite, so that I know I can check it off. And so I did that in 2 different ways this cycle, because for me, that's the hardest thing about setting goals for a particular period of time, for like a month or a cycle, let's say, is like, I don't know how much I can get done in that time. I really don't, like, especially because like for me, the limiting factor in my productivity is not time. I have plenty of time. I'm self-employed. I make my own schedule. I have all the time in the world. The limiting factor for me is executive function. Is like, when am I actually going to be able to get my brain to do those things, even though I've got all the time in the world? And how much can I fit into one cycle before I have to, before I want to wrap things up and take a rest and then think about the next sprint? So what I've actually done that in 2 different ways for different domains, which I feel like might be a bit of a game changer going forward. Because with creative stuff, it was fairly easy to be like, okay, here's the finite like tasks or projects I want to do. I want to do this video. I want to film this video, even though I know I'm not going to finish editing it this month. So filming that is the task. I want to do 2 pieces of writing, and I want to figure out my backup system. That is fairly clear to me in that that's achievable in a month. Whereas my Davice stuff, so my stuff for the academy, I have a bunch of things on that I don't know how long they're going to take, and so it's really hard for me to like set. But then they're also overdue because last month was kind of a write-off. So I was like, I don't know how much of these I'll be able to get done. So instead, the way I'm limiting it is I have this little list of like, here are the projects for Davice, and my goal is X number of days, like work days, working through that list. And that way I check off each of the days instead of the tasks, and I see how far I can get through that. But it's still finite. So I know if I've done that many work days of Davice, then I've achieved my goal, and I can, you know, my Davice stuff for the month, and I can move on to the other quests on the list. So that's kind of cool, to be honest, like being able to mix and match both ways of making like a goal finite seems really helpful to me, because I think the problem with the Davice stuff is that a lot of it, like I say, is all that budgeting and stuff, which I find really stressful, and I have a lot of mental resistance towards doing because I find it very stressful. So saying I'm going to achieve all these things is very daunting, whereas saying like, okay, well, you're going to do 3 days, for instance, of just Davice work, and, you know, work through as much of that as you can, or, you know, even start with the easiest stuff and work through it, felt a lot more manageable to me mentally. And again, like I say, executive function, actually being able to get my brain to do the things, is the limiting factor for my productivity. And so just like reframing that felt very helpful. Yeah, that's my chat. Like I say, I'm now recording this voiceover. I'm about maybe just a little less than halfway through this cycle, and that way of doing it's been going really well, and I feel so much more clear and so much more focused. It's very good. And that's it. That was my setup. This is the final thing. I decided not to even get rid of this ink smudge and just roll with it, you know? Mistakes are fine. It's part of the process. I don't want to be too precious about my journal, so I haven't actually still written my intention in there, but I'm just going to write over it. Who cares? We're not perfect. We're not trying to be. And that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. 2 wee things, well, three wee things. I do a free 7-day course on the plot embryo. If you are a writer of fiction, you might be interested in that. You can find it on my website at rachelstephen.com/plot, and I do a monthly live stream where we chat and sometimes do co-working, and it's a lot of fun. You can join that on my Patreon at patreon.com/rachelstephen. And this one's a bit random, but like I said, I've been doing a bunch of my budgeting stuff and taxes and that, and I'm actually looking for a bookkeeper to help me with my business. So if you know of anyone that's good, please let me know. I'd really love to work with someone in Glasgow, but I realise that's maybe not realistic. I don't know. So yeah, if you know of any bookkeepers in Scotland who are good, please give me a shout. Or if there's anyone particularly amazing that you know that works remotely, then I guess give me a shout as well. I know that's pretty random, but like I genuinely don't know where to start at all looking for that kind of thing. So I thought I'd put the word out here. Anyway, hope you're well, and regardless of how you're doing and how you're feeling, I hope you're taking care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.